Yeah, great pleasure right now to welcome to the show today a woman who has written an interesting book that is called Lincoln Incorporated, Selling the 16th President in Contemporary America. We're joined by Jackie Hogan. She's the chair of sociology at Bradley University up in Peoria, Illinois, and she joined us by telephone today. And Jackie, thanks for being with us. How are you?
Thanks, fine.
Good to talk to you. I had a chance to read through the book over the weekend and really enjoyed it. I guess Lincoln is kind of enjoying another resurgence. Of course, Bill O'Reilly's book is out, and you see Lincoln used in so many different ways of advertising and all sorts of marketing aspects, I guess. That's sort of the premise of your book, isn't it?
Yes, certainly in the last few years, since about 2008, we've seen a real upswing in interest in Lincoln, first with the Lincoln bicentennial, and now with the sesquicentennial of his presidency in the Civil War. But even before that, really for the last 100 years or so, we have seen politicians, business people, all manner of public figures using Lincoln for their own purposes.
You live, obviously, up in the land of Lincoln, Illinois, although he was not born in Illinois. He was born in Kentucky, wasn't he?
That's right.
I always thought he was born in Illinois. I guess I was a lot of things about Lincoln that I guess I was taught that are wrong, right?
Yeah, so he was born in Kentucky, lived much of his boyhood in Indiana, and then lived in Illinois as an adult. And so really that's the Lincoln heartland where the tourist industry and other kind of associated Lincoln projects are at their peak.
When you take on a topic like this, obviously so much has been written about him. I think you mentioned the thousands of books that have been written about Lincoln, of course, movies and television and film and all that. How do you kind of start to do your research on this particular book?
Well, when I moved to Illinois about 11 years ago, I couldn't help but notice how widely Lincoln was used by, in political speeches, by businesses. You can even, in the fall, go through Lincoln-shaped corn mazes where you pay your $5 to literally get inside Lincoln's head. So that made me start thinking about all the ways we use Lincoln. And so I started investigating this, and certainly, it was at the time of the 2008 presidential election, so I had a wealth of material to work from because Barack Obama's campaign so effectively leveraged the Lincoln brand in support of their candidate.
Right, yeah, obviously the connection there, first African-American president as well, so it all kind of brought up what Lincoln did back in the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, you talk about that in the book as well. I guess he's getting credit maybe for something that he did not have the full responsibility for. Is that right?
Well, this is sort of an ongoing debate. Certainly he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, but he did not live to see slavery formally abolished. That happened after his assassination. So, yes, there is some kind of ongoing debate about kind of how firmly committed he was to abolition.
What about his upbringing? I know you talk in the book. A lot of the stories, like I mentioned before, maybe that kids are taught in school or maybe portrayed in film, maybe a bit apocryphal. Did you find out some things about him that surprised you?
Yeah, certainly. And one of the pleasures I had was interviewing lots of teachers and the ways they talk about Lincoln in their classrooms, what they stress in their classrooms. One of the things that was interesting to me is that in elementary classrooms today, Lincoln is used above all else as sort of a moral exemplar. So more than stressing his particular actions, his policies, and so on, teachers tend to stress his character, his determination, his compassion, his moral leadership, and also they hold him up as an exemplar of the American dream, this dream of upward mobility, because his life really exemplifies that rags to riches story that we as Americans really love.
One of the chapters in there I kind of got a kick out of, you talk about him obviously used in pop culture, pop literature, and film and TV. He even mentioned an episode of Star Trek that I was a fan of that show, where Lincoln actually appears in that, or the image of Lincoln with Captain Kirk. I thought that was kind of funny. Did you ever see that episode?
Oh, yes, I had known about it. But, I didn't know that such a diverse cast of Lincolns existed in the world of fiction and film. So, there's the vampire slayer Lincoln, there's the zombie hunter Lincoln, the cyborg Lincoln, the romantic hero Lincoln. And no, I did not know that those Lincolns existed, and that was really a delight to see them. But I think it kind of speaks to the fact that Lincoln has become sort of all things to all people. He is an all-purpose symbol of kind of Americanness and goodness, and so he can be used in all kinds of ways as that kind of symbol of goodness.
Yeah, the one in Star Trek was heroic Lincoln, because Captain Kirk thought Lincoln was one of his heroes, so he was a good Lincoln in there. He wasn't a vampire slayer. He's
basically a good Lincoln in all of those representations. I have yet to run across a bad Lincoln character unless it's an imposter Lincoln. I've found a few imposter Lincoln characters, but usually the real Lincoln shows up and saves the day.
I think probably in film, Raymond Massey and I guess Henry Fonda are the two most famous actors that have portrayed Lincoln. I guess Raymond Massey may have portrayed him more than anybody. I don't know if you watched any of those movies during the book, did you? Or?
Yes, and those tend to be, very traditional folk heroes, plain-spoken, fighting for what's right. And what we see, too, is that representations of Lincoln have changed a great deal over time, from those films in, the Henry Fonda in the 30s, the 40s, or the 50s, which are very kind of traditional folk heroes, through to, say, a more recent film like Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian,
right,
where a giant marble Lincoln from the Lincoln Memorial in the end saves the day. So we've seen very different representations of Lincoln over time. They change with the times.
And, of course, his image used in so many commercials or print ads. I guess he just had that look, the image that we think of him with the beard and the black hat and all that, and then I guess the kind of the black suit with the bow tie. You automatically know it's Lincoln from that look. It fits in with any kind of advertising, doesn't it?
That's right. I think arguably he's one of the most recognizable brands in America today. I think he rivals the golden arches and the Mickey Mouse ears for being a recognizable symbol, and he is a symbol of so many of the values that Americans hold near and dear. So that makes him a very useful brand or a useful symbol. So we see him being used by diverse and antithetical groups. So, for instance, both the Republicans and the Democrats use him. Both capitalists and socialists use him. The Civil Rights Movement and the KKK use him as sort of an unofficial spokesperson.
Do you know, or for your research, does any descendant of Lincoln get any money? Or I guess you said he was president, it's public domain, right? I mean, there's no way any of the family can charge for that, right?
Right. Actually, there's only one licensed user of Lincoln's name and image, and that's Lincoln Financial Services. Lincoln's eldest son, Robert, sold them the rights to that.
Oh, really?
But there are no Lincoln descendants left, and so now it's in the public domain. Anyone can use it, and basically everyone does use it.
Too bad he wasn't born maybe 100 years later. He'd be rich. But then he wouldn't have been around to do what he did to make America better, I guess. So he was around at the right time, right?
Yes, he was around when we needed him,
right,
and arguably we sort of still need him, and so he's still around. Even though he's not around in the flesh, he is around as a symbol, and I think he's a very useful symbol for a whole range of groups.
He had kind of a sad life, though, didn't he? I know he suffered. Didn't he suffer from depression and other ailments in his life?
Yeah, there is evidence that he suffered from depression, or what he called melancholy. And that's another thing that teachers these days often stress in their lessons about Lincoln that, despite these challenges in his life, his illnesses, deaths of close family members, and kind of a very impoverished background, he still persevered and managed to rise to the top of society. And I think that's one of the main appeals of Lincoln, especially in, difficult financial times, economic times like today. We cling on to those stories of hope that even though things are tough now, we can persevere just like Lincoln persevered.
Well, that's a great topic and a very interesting read. It's called Lincoln Incorporated, Selling the 16th President in Contemporary America. We've been talking with the author, Jackie Hogan. Jackie, do you have a website? People get a hold of the book or maybe send you a message if they like?
Yes, I do. www.lincoln-inc.com.
Great, lincoln-inc.com. And, well, good luck with the book, Jackie. Really enjoyed reading and talking to you, and hope we can do it again down the road. But thanks for being with us today.
All right. Thank you.